Produced by Threat Productions.
Welcome to Raise Your Self-Image. It is February 10th, 2011.
Yes,
and
sir.
like always, to my left here is my main man, Craig Hall.
All right, how y'all doing today? We here to celebrate Black History Month, and we're happy about it. They gave us a month, so we just want to celebrate it. And I'd like to start off with one of the scriptures from the Bible
That'd be great.
that says, "My people perish because of lack of knowledge." And it's not so much to say that they don't have the knowledge; it's just that they don't use the knowledge that is for us. So. We're here and we're going to show this.
Yeah, so today we're going to show a video on odds on the prize. But for a couple of minutes here, we just want to sit here. We want to talk about some of the great people that I feel in Black History Month that needs to be paid homage to.
All
so
right.
let's talk about like Rosa Parks, for example.
Yeah.
This lady, she was going to work every day.
Every day, man.
Cleaning and sweeping on her hands and knees,
Yeah.
For these people. And then she comes to get on the bus. She sits down, and she can't even sit there. She got to get up and give her seat to somebody who probably worked behind the desk all day.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And what struck me is that, she wasn't trying to make history. She was just tired of the injustice.
Right.
So she's like, I'm not giving up my seat. I paid my fare, and this is America. How you going to treat people like that?
Right.
Vernon?
Because it's funny. It's like, because we always talk about, whether or not black people have power or not. See, that right there demonstrated that black people did have power.
Yeah.
Because once black people said, look, we're tired of sitting in the back of the bus.
Thank you.
We're going to take our money and we're going to leave it in our pockets.
Yeah.
Understand? So we're going to walk
Exactly.
for a year until you decide that it's time for you to start getting paid again.
Yes, sir.
You
yes,
know?
sir. Yeah.
So right there, that changed the relationship right there with black and white people.
Because money talk. You
Right.
know, money ain't got no color. I mean, it got color, but it ain't no color among people.
Right.
It spins the same. That's what I'm trying to say. It spins the same.
That's right.
So when you take away the money, people gonna listen. And
Right.
and she had a lot to say. I mean, she worked hard every
Right.
day, like you said, to support her family.
Right.
And then you're gonna tell me she waited in line to get on the bus, and they're gonna say, "Oh no, I'm sorry, miss, can you give me your chair?"
Right. Because it's
Come
funny.
on, now.
Right. It's funny how we take things for granted. Today, I see all, when you ride the bus or whatever.
Yeah.
And everybody on the bus just act so foolish.
Yeah.
You got the young kids on there, and they just be talking so loud and out of turn. Many times they're so disrespectful to other people that's on the bus and don't even understand that one time, they had no power, and all they have to do was sit on the back of the bus and be happy with that. That's really incredible. Will we come to today?
Yeah.
Because that was what, December, 1955.
Whoa. Man, that's a long time ago. So do you think we came a long way, or are we still struggling with trying to get this equal
We have come a long
opportunity,
way. Yeah, I think, see, the thing about the civil rights movement, we won.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
We have laws that protects us. Craig, right now, you live in a neighborhood that you couldn't live in 1955.
That's true.
I lived in a neighborhood that I couldn't live in 1955.
That's true.
So we're voting. We're doing all these things, today because of the civil rights movement, because of people like Martin Luther King and Medgar Evers and all those type of people. So I believe that, it's been a short time. It only been like 40 to 50 years.
Okay,
so
you could say that. 40 years, that's...
this is my lifetime.
Right.
I was on this planet Earth when Martin Luther King was alive, and so were you.
Yes.
So, in our lifetime, there have been a lot of changes that happened over these years.
That's true. And one thing I loved about Martin Luther King was, he said no violence, and he was a man of his word, and whatever he preached, that's what he believed. And so he stood on, like they say, actions. Words speak loud, but actions really tell what you're about.
Right.
And he stood on what he believed, and he meant no violence. And he said he wanted to see his dream that, you know, we could all go to school together.
That's right.
You know, and have that.
Right. And right now, it's time for us to start judging people by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin. So let's do the right thing. Let's get rid of all the hatred and all the prejudice, and let's enjoy Black History Month.
Amen.
And let's go on and let's go ahead and play the prize. All right?
Yeah. Raise your self-image, everybody out there.
That's right.
Leave the prejudice behind us.
That's right.
You know, because the future is much brighter, and that's where we want to go.
Following presentation is from PBS Home Video.
I know the one thing we did right was the day we started to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on.
A Nation of Law, produced by Louis Messiah and Terry Rockefeller. Thomas Ott directed it, and he also edited the film. And they had the assignment of looking at two stories. One was the death of young Black Panther, Fred Hampton. The other was the events in Attica. Difficult material, but it was about one of the great unseen players in the civil rights movement, and that is the government. The government worked at one level as a supportive, encouraging element, but there was another level of government always operating, and it was operating in the Deep South from the earliest days of King, when the FBI began to pursue and watch him. It continued surely with the Black Panthers. It is important for people to understand that while they might turn toward their government as friend, many of the people in the civil rights movement learned early on that if you waited for the FBI to come and protect you, if you waited for the police to come and protect you, you would never survive till morning. I think people were aware that the movement had touched so many places. It was far beyond the initial scope. And one of the places it touched was in prisons, where people were living under even more oppressive conditions, where, you know, criminals or not, a society is judged by the quality of the way we treat our prisoners. And we were treating them very badly. And they picked up this energy. They didn't pick up weapons, but they picked up the willingness and interest in challenging the system and how they were being treated. And that broke into the events at Attica, which threatened, I think, much of the American penal system, and literally was a landmark moment and change in terms of the way we run our prisons. Well, throughout this part of the movement, civil rights is no longer quite the right word. It's there surely, but we're moving into a period of human rights, and the opening for all the people who are either oppressed or people who have been deprived of their rights is getting wider, and they begin to pick up the same energy. It's not just an African-American cause, it's certainly Latino, it's certainly the role that women begin to feel about their own rights later on. The show is A Nation of Law, ? And it was produced by Louis Messiah, Terry Rockefeller, directed by Thomas Ott, and edited by Thomas Ott.
I know the one thing we did right was the day we started to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on.
Only our brother Martin Luther King exhausted a means of nonviolence with his life being taken by some racist. What is being done to us is what we hate, and what happened to Martin Luther King is what we hate. You darn right. We respect nonviolence. But to sit and watch ourselves be slaughtered like our brother, we must defend ourselves, as Malcolm X said, by any means necessary.
At this point, I question the whole purpose of the Black Panther Party. In my thinking, they were necessary. It was a shock treatment for white America to see black men running around with guns, just like black men that saw white men running around with guns. Yeah, that was a shock treatment. It was good in that extent, but it got a lot of black people hurt.
There was no joke about what was going on, but we believed with our hearts that we should defend ourselves. And there were so many that did do that.
By 1968, the Black Panther Party was part of an increasingly volatile political scene. That summer, the National Democratic Convention in Chicago was disrupted by violent clashes between demonstrators and police.
I've never seen anything as horrible in my whole life. Record of Dr. Keller.
The war in Vietnam polarized the nation, and the political and racial upheaval at home soon became an issue in the presidential campaign.
This is a nation of laws, and as Abraham Lincoln has said, no one is above the law, no one is below the law, and we're going to enforce the law, and Americans should remember that if we're going to have law and order.
I think it's fair to say that as the Nixon administration came into office, as we came into office in 1969, there certainly was a strong perception of radicalization.
In Chicago and in other cities, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover expanded surveillance of organizations in the black community, especially the Black Panther Party. Directives issued by FBI headquarters a few weeks after the elections called for, quote, imaginative and hard-hitting counterintelligence measures aimed at crippling the Black Panther Party, unquote. On Chicago's west side, the Panthers had just opened their first office in Illinois.
Well, the thing that I really loved about the Black Panthers is that they refused to be ignored. It was very easy to ignore black people back then because everybody figured, well, it's just a lot of talk, and they're not going to do anything. They'll just go on and on and on, moaning and groaning about how terrible everything is, and they, of course, at the best, they just might get involved in some acts of nonviolence, but that's about it. And they just kind of, you know, business as usual. You couldn't have business as usual with the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers were definitely going to be heard.
So we always say in the Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that. You're going to have to say that I am a proletarian. I am the people. I'm not the pig. You got to make a distinction. And the people are going to have to attack the pig. The people are going to have to stand up against the pig. That's what the Panthers are doing. That's what the Panthers are doing all over the world.
Fred Hampton, a former NAACP youth organizer, became at age 20 chairman of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. The Panthers program drew mixed reactions in Chicago's black community.
Many black people initially was very, very afraid of the Black Panther Party.
I understood where they were trying to go politically and felt that they had to change things. And when I talk about fear, I was afraid they weren't going to do it right. And I was always trying to cool them out and say, that's not the right way to go. They were too direct.
You could tell that this was a movement that was very meaningful to them. And none of them was suicidal, so it wasn't like they were out there trying to figure out a way to get killed. But they did honestly and truly believe in power to the people. I mean, that was their slogan.
Here you found some brothers and sisters saying, first, you know, look, the United States Constitution guarantees us the right to bear arms and to protect ourselves. And we understand that we need protection in the black community. And it's our responsibility to protect black women and black children, not the police, because the police is not here to serve and protect us, only to continue to enslave us. It is our responsibility to see to it that our people have a decent place to live, decent food to eat, and quality health care, not the system. So that frightened a lot of people. I mean, they didn't think that it could happen. They didn't think that it was right.
People learn by example. I don't think anybody has an argument with that. I think that when Huey P. Newton said that people learn basically by observation and participation, I think that everybody caught on to that. So what we're saying very simply is that if they learn by observation and participation, then we need to do more acting than we need to do writing. And I think the Black Panther Party is doing that. That we didn't talk about a Breakfast for Children program, we've got one.
Come on in, little brother. Come on in, little sister. Y'all can sit down and get something to eat.
Sisters and brothers.
Y'all take off y'all's coat. Sit down, man. Everybody gonna eat. Y'all can eat as much as y'all want.
The new Breakfast for Children program soon attracted the attention of the FBI. Claiming the program served to indoctrinate children, the Bureau directed field officers to, quote, formulate specific counterintelligence techniques to disrupt this nefarious activity, unquote. The FBI stepped up its efforts to recruit blacks to infiltrate the Black Panther Party.
My recruitment by the FBI was very efficient, very simple, really. I'd stolen a car and went joyriding over the state limit, and they had a potential case against me, and I was looking for an opportunity to work it off. And a couple of months later, that opportunity came when FBI agent Roy Mitchell asked me to go down to the local office of the Black Panther Party and try to gain membership.
I think everyone that was in the Black Panther Party kind of understood it was a given that we would have wiretaps, that we would be followed, that we would be harassed, we'd be locked up, that we would even be beaten by the police.
In the winter of 1969, law enforcement agencies launched efforts to undermine an attempted coalition between the Black Panther Party and the Blackstone Rangers, a Chicago gang.
The Panthers were pursuing an ideology that said we need to take these young minds, this young energy, and turn it into part of our movement in terms of black liberation and the rest of it. And I saw a very purposeful, intentional effort on the part of the police department to keep that head from hooking up to that body. It was like, you know, do not let this thing become a part of what could ultimately be a political movement, because that's exactly what it was.
FBI agents wrote an anonymous letter to Jeff Fort, the leader of the Blackstone Rangers, warning Fort that the Panthers have, quote, a hideout for you, unquote. The Bureau knew that the information was false, but believed that Fort might take retaliatory action against the Panthers. Meanwhile, city officials announced a crackdown on gangs.
Would you say that street gangs can do no good? Is that what you would say?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think that the energy of youth properly directed could be a tremendous betterment, could lead to a tremendous betterment of our city and the individuals' progress themselves. I'm complaining about the misdirection. I'm complaining about the fact that 620 out of 693 shooting victims are black themselves. And I think that's a tragedy. That is where black genocide is occurring here.
The Chicago police expanded their anti-gang campaign to include the Black Panther Party. In late May, Fred Hampton was sent to prison. He had been convicted on a charge of stealing $71 worth of ice cream bars.
We tried to develop negative information to discredit him, just like we did everybody else. We, meaning the FBI, I tried to come up with signs of him doing drugs or something, and never could. He was clean. He was dedicated. I've had private conversations with him. We got along pretty well.
While Fred Hampton was in prison, a police raid on the Panther office turned into a shootout. 5 policemen and 3 Panthers were wounded.
They did it. Once they got the brothers down, they went back up there and the fire started.
Nobody was up there except the police when the fire started.
Frank, you want to come get a picture of that dude? Yeah, check that door, man. Magnified shotgun.
They shot up the door at the office there, arrested some Panthers. And just to show you the nature of the raiding officers there. They burned boxes of cereal that we had on the 3rd floor. When they deliberately set fire to that. They didn't set fire to the 2nd floor. They set fire to the 3rd floor with all the, that was kind of indicative of what they were thinking and how they were moving.
The idea on the part of the police was to psych the community out. They called me up the next day. I says, is the office open? Well, no, the police boarded the place up. I say, open it back up. You got the lease to the place. What? I says, open it up. Take all that boarding down, paint that place. And the Black Panther Party members start working for a couple of days. The next thing you know, the community start bringing wood, paint, and everything, and open that Black Panther Party office right back up. And of course, this was an attempt to terrorize us out of existence. At the same time, if we would close down, it would leave the black community saying, well, they stopped them.
In a report made public in the summer of 1969, FBI Director Hoover declared the Black Panther Party the #1 threat to the internal security of the United States.
I think, frankly, that he overstated the concern, the real concern that the Black Panthers were to the country. I think it was legitimate for him to state that they were a violent and unlawful element. But referring to them as the most dangerous or most important, and I don't remember exactly the words he used, the greatest threat to the United States at that time, I think was an overstatement.
The police community is sort of a built-in reward and punishment system of its own, and you get a lot of rewards when you go after who the boss says is the bad guy and you get him. And I think what J. Edgar Hoover was able to do was to give police officers the impression that it was okay, it was open season. You didn't have to worry about the law. You didn't have to worry about the difference in the executive branch of government and the judicial branch of government. I think what he in effect said is it's our ball game, guys. We've got the authority, we have the capacity, let's crush him.
Panther leader Fred Hampton was still in prison, but efforts were underway to appeal his conviction.
We were successful when we got him out of jail towards the end of that summer because Supreme Court Justice in the state of Illinois looked at what kind of a person he was, looked at the kind of case it was, and gave him appeal bond. That's the first time I saw Fred Hampton, and I was in a young white student in a predominantly black church, full to the rafters, welcoming Fred Hampton back.
Okay, you put your hands down now. We say all power to all people. We say white power to white people. Brown power to brown people. Yellow power to yellow people. Black power to black people.
We go out, we drive along to some schoolyard or something, and there are like 200, 300 people waiting there for Fred to show up. And the phenomenal part was that, I mean, these are all people from the streets, I mean, who are not going to get up and go to work or anything else, and never had no discipline and never would. But there they were, and it was 6:30 in the morning, freezing Chicago weather. And Fred would have them out there doing push-ups and jumping jacks and getting themselves energized for the day's work, which included making the breakfast, which included selling papers, which included working in a medical clinic, which included a bunch of stuff. It was a very day-to-day kind of a thing, the Black Panther Party. And you'd have Fred out there rallying them, and he'd say, all right, all right, all right, power to the people. Everybody say, power to the people. He'd say, now, I'm not going to die on no airplane. They'd say, no. I'm not going to die slipping on no ice. They say, no. He said, I'm going to die for the people because I'm going to live for the people. They say, right on. He said, I'm going to live for the people because I love the people. They say, right on. He'd say, I love the people. Why? And they say, because we're high on the people, because we're high on the people. And that was Fred Hampton. When you saw this was 21 years old. It was unbelievable. You could not be moved by Fred Hampton.
In the fall of 1969, Chicago was the scene of a controversial trial. The defendants were leaders of the anti-war demonstrations that had taken place during the Democratic Party convention. National Panther Chairman Bobby Seale insisted on speaking in his own defense. On October 29th, trial judge Julius Hoffman ordered Seale bound and gagged.
This is a symbol to every one of us. Black men in our courts are gagged. Black men in our courts do not feel as though there is any justice. Black men in our courts, whenever case they come, feel that judges do not understand and are without mercy.
2 weeks later, a gun battle on Chicago's South Side further escalated tensions. A former Panther and 2 policemen were killed. The deaths provoked a response from informant William O'Neill's FBI contact.
Mitchell became more specific during that time. He wanted to know the locations of weapons caches. He wanted to know if we had explosives. He needed to know who was staying at what locations, who spent the night where. His information didn't change so much as he requested more detail. And
because of time constraints, we had to limit the movie. But you know, Fred Hampton, he was a serious young man, and I just can't even believe at this time how young he was when he was doing all that.
I know, man, 20. And as young black men as ourselves, you know, we have to teach our children about black history because the schools are not teaching it. They're not teaching it in the schools right now. So as black men, me and Vernon, we have to teach our children about black history because if you don't know where you've been, you're not going to know where you're going. So, you know, you got to know your history. And we want to say, we love you, raise your self-image.
Right. And another thing, black history is for everyone. Black history is American history. Martin Luther King, Fred Hampton, Medgar Evers, Rosa Parks, all these people were American. So everyone needs to embrace the history of America. So that's what we have to really point out, that this is everybody's history. It's not just for us.
Yes.
Because all the other minority groups that's in America is riding on the backs of these great young women and men that have done all this work to make sure that they provided this type of thing for us today.
Equal rights for everybody.
All right.
Because we are in this together, so raise your self-image.
And remember, if you master culture, you can conquer the world.
Peace.